Welcome to Bad Boss Detox, a podcast about turning workplace horror stories into your survival guide. In this episode, we'll talk about narcissism and give you a list of red flags to look out for, and talk about some strategies for dealing with these master manipulators. Stay tuned. Hey, Ivy, how you doing?
I'm great, Katie. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
What's going on with you this week?
Well, I got to be 3 hours late for work yesterday and hang out with my granddaughter who was not feeling well. That was fun. And she only got mad at me and hid in her closet once, so that was a bonus.
How old is she?
4.
That's such a cute age.
Yeah, apparently her tata, which is her grandfather on her mom's side, will pay for apps for her iPod or iPad, and I will not.
Call Child Protective Services because that's totally unfair.
Not going to be exactly. She was like a ninja child. I turned around and she was gone.
Yeah.
And I found her in her dark closet with her iPad giggling.
You gotta love a 4-year-old. That's super cute.
Mm-hmm. Yep. How about you?
I am good. It's been a busy week. I spent all of today re-recording voiceover for a book I did that's like a romance with a dragon in it. And I didn't realize I had to do the male voices and not just the female voices. So all day, I was talking way down here, and so my voice sounds like shit now.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Maybe if I sound a little scratchy, that's why.
I love a scratchy voice. I spent my whole childhood wishing that I could smoke enough cigarettes to sound like Kim Carnes.
Yeah, well, jury's out on whether it's sexy or not, but I think I might have let my teacher Audacity fly me too close to the sun because I cut my own bangs this week.
Oh!
And I don't know, I feel like they're too short, but I feel like I look like Lord Farquaad, so. Let's talk about some narcissists today.
Right?
Those soul-sucking a-holes.
Oh, my. Narcissists that are allowed to tell you what to do and pay you.
It's too much power.
So, as you know, Katie, for just under 25 years, I worked for a very narcissistic boss. And 25 years ago, when I started, the word narcissist was not as commonly used as it is today. So I wasn't exactly aware of my situation. I just knew I was a young parent. I wanted to be able to work, earn a living, and stay home with my kids simultaneously. So when the opportunity arose to work as a personal assistant to a female business owner, I jumped at it. And at first it was funny, her behaviors. She was a bit eccentric, not nearly as bad as she became in the last 6 years of our relationship. But ultimately, she had me second-guessing myself. She had me stewing in my own anger all the time at how she treated everyone, not just me. And it finally got to the point where I saw her for what she was, and she knew it. And so for the last 2 years of our relationship, we were not in the same room together ever.
Wow.
Minimized phone calls. Most of our communication was email. You know this with narcissists, they will confuse you, like make you wonder if they're really that bad or make you feel sorry for them. I felt so sorry for her. I still feel so sorry for her. But my bad boss was a heavy, heavy, heavy drinker. So I believe that some of her narcissistic tendencies were masked by alcohol. So in 2017, maybe 18, it was New Year's of one of those 2 years, she quit cold turkey. Like she just quit drinking. She didn't mention it to anyone. She didn't say anything. She just quit. So in 2019, when she threw herself a 60th birthday party, my eyes were opened wide. I could see very, very clearly at that point what I was dealing with. And perhaps one day I'll share that story, but I'm seeing that as we progress in this podcast, we're leaning more towards showing the warning signs, hearing other people's stories, and getting away from my own. I will share gradually, of course, but for now, I think we should focus on you, the listener.
Yeah. We have an opportunity to educate people and help people, and I'm here for it. I would love to share any of our relevant stories as we go because they're honestly pretty hilarious now that we're out of those situations.
Right. Sometimes it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like one of those things where you You see these videos or memes all the time where people are like, what's something that was normal in your family until you share it with somebody else, and then everyone in the room goes quiet and is staring at you like you're crazy. Yeah,
Yep. I got several of those.
That's my boss, my ex-boss. I don't work for her anymore.
Yeah. Do you have to remind yourself of that sometimes?
All the time.
It's still fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, it's been 2 months.
And look how much you've done in that time.
Bomb.
They say it takes 90 days to really detox, so you're getting close.
All right.
We have so much information here, so we've kind of tried to condense it. But it's estimated that about 1 out of every 20 people in the world are narcissistic. So chances are you've probably dealt with more than a few in your lifetime. So today we're going to talk about some red flags to look out for in a narcissistic boss or even any other person in your life, because like I said, there can be some crossover here with toxic relationships. These characteristics might manifest differently depending on your relationship with that person, but just be on the lookout and trust your intuition. Like something that my mom taught me when I was little was like, if you start getting that icky feeling, something's up and you need to listen to it. So what is this narcissistic personality disorder? This is a mental health condition that typically involves an inflated sense of self-importance, extreme need for attention and admiration, superficial relationships, and a lack of empathy, or faking empathy, which is the scary one. It's often accompanied by other psychiatric disorders, and it can be really difficult to treat. It's a significant risk factor for suicide and suicidal attempts, and it should be addressed by a medical professional. There are 12 traits of a narcissist, but only 9 of them are usually used to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder. And if a person displays 5 or more of these traits, they're usually diagnosed with NPD. Little disclaimer, we are not therapists or medical professionals of any kind. We're just some ladies, and there is no podcast that is a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment, despite what Joe Rogan might say, or some other people. So yeah, take our info with a grain of salt. Know that we did some research, but we're not really professionals about this. This is just meant to get your little spider sense tingling if something funky's going on and give you some strategies for dealing with it. Okay, another side note here. Again, we are not attempting to diagnose anybody here, and you listeners, you shouldn't be either. Some people may have several of these traits, but not be a bona fide narcissist with NPD. That's not for us to decide. That's between them and their therapist. It's possible they could be helped in therapy, but that would have to be their idea. They have to want to improve and work at it. But chances are they're not going to go to therapy anyway, because they're most likely convinced there's nothing wrong with them. And honestly, that's not your problem. We are looking out for you, the listeners. And if you think it's in your best interest to just cut ties with this toxic boss or toxic person and leave, then you should. Something that is of note here, there's a term used when we describe narcissists and their behavior, which is narcissistic supply. This is the fuel for the narcissist. This is what I said, like they'll drain your life force. They get this from other people because a narcissist, while they may have this arrogant attitude, this self-importance, they're actually deeply insecure.
Deeply.
And they seek attention, validation, and praise from others in order to create dopamine. So think about an energy vampire. I can't get through an episode without talking about vampires, apparently. But if you've ever seen that show, What We Do in the Shadows, have you ever seen that, Ivy?
Nope.
Oh my God, it's so hilarious. There's a character there who's an energy vampire, and he is a very toxic boss. So, yeah, worth checking out. It's pretty funny. Also note that many narcissistic relationships start with a process called love bombing. And that's where they go over the top praising you and make you feel like you're so special and so important. And they'll give you gifts and just extravagant stuff. They'll buy you flowers all the time. And this is just to kind of like lure you in and make you feel like this is the person that they're going to be all the time. But it's fake and it's short-lived. And this is also a tactic that's used by fucking cults. They will love bomb you to lure you in. So this is a very big red flag if you start feeling like they're being over the top, complimentary, and sweet to you when you first start.
It wasn't when I first started only, though, with mine. It was constant. There was,
And sometimes they'll do it when they feel like they need to re-up.
Yep, there was
they feel like you might be onto them.
Love bomb, the opposite of love bomb. Love bomb, the opposite of love bomb.
Love bomb, actual bomb.
Mm-hmm.
You're a strong lady for surviving that shit.
Yeah. Sometimes it didn't feel that way.
I know. So there are some subtypes of this narcissistic personality disorder that I want to mention because some of this, tweak these red flags a little bit for you. Mm-hmm. So there's number one is the grandiose or overt narcissist, which is the one that you typically think of as a narcissist. They're the classic look at me type of boss. They're loud and arrogant and bragging about their greatness. And this is like Elon Musk on Twitter. Like, so obviously a narcissist that there's just no doubt. But there's another type called the vulnerable or the covert narcissist, and this is the sneaky one. This is the one that you might be like, how could this person be a narcissist when they're all the time saying terrible things about themselves? Well, it's because they're passive-aggressive and they want to be a martyr. They might seem insecure or sensitive. Well, they are insecure, but it's a manipulative tactic. They will play the victim constantly, and any criticism is seen as a personal attack. They really love to guilt trip employees. They fish for compliments. This made me think of Regina George when she's like, I really want to lose 3 pounds. And just like waits for her little minions to be like, oh, but you don't need to lose 3 pounds. You look amazing.
Best movie ever.
Right? I knew you'd like that example. They'll expect you to apologize, but if they ever hurt your feelings, they move on almost immediately with no apology in sight.
Or get angry if you call them out on hurting your feelings.
Oh, absolutely. And they'll turn it back around on you. This is like the really nasty one.
Yep.
Okay. There's also the malignant narcissist, which is the corporate sociopath. This is like the sadist, the paranoid Machiavellian, manipulative, evil genius vibes, and they actually enjoy watching other people suffer. That is pretty scary, but easy to identify. This is like Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada, but even meaner. Like, it's very clear that they just get joy out of ripping other people down. And the last is the communal narcissist, the I'm a savior boss. They believe that they're the most selfless and giving and morally superior person in the whole company. They will remind you constantly about all the quote-unquote good that they've done. So this is the type of person that gives money to charity, but then posts all about it on social media.
Yeah, because they just want the credit.
Because they just want the credit and the attention.
Yeah, they just want to be told how great they are.
They want to be perceived as a good-hearted, kind person. So they may donate to charity, but they also exploit their workers. Sort of like my favorite Harry Cockbag, who gave a lot of money to artists in the art community, but exploited the shit out of his workers. So those are the 4 subtypes.
Okay.
So keep those things in mind.
Yeah. I think that so far, my boss falls into every category, which she would be so proud of because she's the best narcissist, right?
Yeah, she's the best of all the narcissists.
She's the
number one narcissist.
Yeah. I'm a better narcissist than you are. So what are the 12 traits of being a narcissist?
So the first is grandiosity. This is their inflated sense of self-importance. They might insist that they're always right, or even bragging about you, bragging about your accomplishments and taking credit for that.
My boss, ex-boss, my old boss, she used to love to talk about her fabulous assistant because it made her look important to have, an assistant.
Right.
And oftentimes when she was disappointed in me, she would say something like, I was just bragging about how fabulous my assistant is. I don't know why. Blah, blah, blah. Grandiosity in narcissists often crosses over into straight up delusion.
Oh, yeah.
The next one is entitlement. Expecting special treatment and a sense of deserving more than others. Your narcissistic boss may demand special treatment or complain about things like an imperfect seat on an airplane that you chose, or expect to be treated differently than others and have a tantrum when they are not.
It sounds like a Karen, just somebody that expects to get whatever they want whenever they want it. So the next one is exploitativeness. taking advantage of others for their personal gain. So in a bad boss, this might look like they're playing the blame game. They'll take credit for someone else's work. They'll blame another for a job that they didn't do well. So if they made the mistake, but they'll blame somebody else. Mm-hmm. They may also refuse to make a decision so that if it doesn't go well, they can blame someone. And if it does go well, then they can take the credit.
Yep.
So that's pretty sneaky. It's never, ever, ever their fault.
Never.
Their own feelings are the only feelings that matter. Ever. They can pretend to care about others' feelings, but in the end, they're going to turn the attention back on themselves. Make it about them. So even when you might come to them and say, I'm upset about this thing, they're going to turn it around and make it about them.
100%.
And this can be one of those things that leaves you confused. Like, I thought I came in here to talk to you about this other issue, and now I'm trying to comfort you because you're crying. What the fuck?
I spent a lot of confused time. The next one is superiority, believing oneself to be better than others. A narcissistic boss may say something terrible about other colleagues or coworkers or competition, putting them down or calling them names as a way to build themselves up or make themselves feel better, or refusing to learn the names of anyone they deem inferior to them, like George fucking Pullman and 10,000 black men named George. I think this is one of the major red flags of any narcissist and shows itself in most, if not all, of the other aspects of narcissism in a boss. Superiority drives a constant need to compare themselves to others, and the narcissist must always come out on top, and they will stop at nothing to convince anyone of this fact.
This makes me think of a boss that expects everybody to be number one in whatever metric they're using to measure their success in the company. Mm-hmm. And if they're number 2 or number 3, then they see that as a massive failure instead of just looking at like, well, we had this growth from where we were last year.
Well, and they're going to have all the insults they can come up with for number 1 and number 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be aware of someone who talks shit about their competitors or their friends and gossips about their friends. And it's like, that can be one way that you see narcissism appear a lot in women, actually, is that they'll gossip and talk shit about their friends.
Well, my former boss talked some major shit about one of the people that was sometimes a contractor for her who couldn't do a gig because she had to take a job, and that job was at a grocery store. My husband works at a grocery store, and that woman sat there and insulted people who work at grocery stores for probably a good 10 minutes. To me, whose husband works at a grocery store.
And she didn't connect that might have hurt your feelings.
She doesn't
care.
Or
it was just shitty at all.
No, because I pointed it out, and she said, "Oh, well, not because he works in an office. He's not, he's not one of the little peons on the floor." Where that woman actually was making a living to feed her family, doing what she needed to do.
So the next one is attention seeking. This is craving admiration and being the center of attention. I'm super guilty of this. Sorry, not sorry. I'm a Leo and an actor. And an only child. I'm fucked.
Nothing's wrong with attention when it's good.
Yeah. The attention seeker in today's lingo is the pick-me, always seeking lots of compliments and looks. They have to be the most interesting, the most well-traveled, the most everything, and they always show up last and enter dramatically. We love a dramatic entrance, but not at the expense of getting shit done. They may brag about being the most popular, sought-after person at a recent business meeting or a social event, and they might laugh the loudest and the longest, because what happens when you laugh loud? People look at you. Whatever it takes to have all eyes on them.
Whatever it takes. My boss used to come home from conferences and brag incessantly about how every man she met at the bar wanted to rip her clothes off.
That's
every
so
time. No one in our hometown ever was interested in her, but
they
send her away. Send her away. And every man at the bar, literally, she would say things like that. Like, oh, the way he was looking at me. Oh, he just wanted to take me up to his room and rip my clothes off.
Okay. Good for you, I guess. I had an example of this one, too, that was pretty crazy. So at the first day of in-service one year, that's like the week that the teachers come to school before the kids, our superintendent of the county required viewing. All of the teachers had to watch a video of him skydiving. And he made some connection to like something. I don't even fucking remember, but it was so dumb. And this was just a display of wealth and attention seeking. He was trying to make us think that he was cool and awesome. But they like cut the video off before the end. And so my principal at the time, who was actually a really cool principal, I liked him. So the video cut off early before we saw the superintendent land. And he was like, anyway, so there's an opening for superintendent if anyone's interested.
I think I did tell you, Katie, about the infamous 60th birthday party that changed my life. I have a very, very, very dear friend who is a fabulous photographer, and she had me hire him to take pictures of her doing yoga poses. She rented the yoga studio so that she could have the yoga stuff behind her. And when she had her 60th birthday party, she made me make a slideshow for all the yoga pictures. So she made everyone come into her office and stand there and watch. And it hurt her feelings when they left before all of the pictures had scrolled through. Like I thought we would just have them on there, and as people were milling through the house, they might see a couple. No, she would escort people into the room to watch the slideshow.
So she just made them stand there awkwardly and look at all the pictures.
Yeah.
And expected compliments and whatever. Oh,
right.
You look so good in that one.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Yeah. Just showing off.
Exactly.
All right, what's next?
Arrogance. Displaying haughty behaviors or attitudes. There is arrogance in all of these traits, in my opinion. Arrogance need not be confused with confidence. Confidence comes from a place of competence and self-assurance, while arrogance typically comes from an exaggerated view of themselves and is usually not based in reality at all.
A confident person is not threatened by other people's success. I can be confident that I'm awesome, but you can also be awesome. That's not a threat to me.
Yep, we're both awesome. An arrogant, narcissistic bad boss may belittle or criticize others or act completely disinterested in things that they did not come up with.
Yeah, they're like a cat. It has to be their idea.
If they didn't come up with it, it's not a good idea. They may even take joy in being worse off than someone just to be the best at it. My boss did that a lot.
Yeah, that's messed up. So this, to me, fits into that covert narcissist subtype. Oh, if a coworker has a personal problem or an issue that's work-related or not, the narcissistic boss for sure has had something worse happen to them. So they'll try to like one-up you. Like it's a competition of suffering. You know, you tell them, oh, I had such a rough day, or oh, my weekend was bad, we blah, blah, blah. And then they'll tell you a story about that happening to them that's way worse, that's intended to make you feel like you shouldn't be complaining.
Right.
Yeah.
Because their pain is worse than your pain.
Oh, yeah. They're the best at pain, too.
Yeah.
So the next one is a lack of empathy. So they are unable to recognize or care about others' feelings or needs. And as a note here, this is where we see some overlap with the sociopathic and psychopathic spectrum. And this can be used to frightening effect, this lack of empathy or this faking empathy. If you watch true crime, you know what we're talking about, because a lot of serial killers and very dangerous people have this lack of empathy and basically a lack of conscience. That's not quite what we're talking about here with someone who's a narcissist, but there can be some overlap. So, worth considering.
Absolutely.
And this one's tough because a narcissist can't let you believe that they have a flaw. So sometimes they'll pretend to care or use another person's situation to get attention by caring so much. This is called virtue signaling. So this is like when they will do something that's really nice or give to charity, or like I saw a narcissistic guy I was dating one time give $100 to a homeless person in front of me, and he like looked at me to make sure I was watching him do it. And I was like, red flag, asshole. That's a deal breaker, ladies. They're compensating for knowing that they do evil, bad shit, and they want to maintain this illusion that they're a good person in the eyes of their subordinates or their food, the people that they're feeding off of. So they'll do this either to manipulate someone or even use the other person's newly shared vulnerability against them. That's messed up too.
Yep.
They're always storing up information to use in their favor later on. Yeah, they have this like unlimited database of bullshit to pull from.
Yep.
Remember that time that you said this to me? I'm still mad about that. A narcissistic boss doesn't care about your personal life or your family. They only care about their own needs. They may insist on unrealistic work hours or calling you during your personal time and taking you away from things that are important to you. So they'll cross boundaries because they don't give a shit.
My husband and I spend Wednesday afternoons together. We have for about 15 or 16 years now, every Wednesday afternoon. I can guarantee you that she would have an emergency at least 3 out of 4 Wednesday afternoons that she needed to call me.
Because it validated her importance that you would take time out of something that was important to you to appease her.
She always referred to it as date night. It was not date night. We did not go out. It was Wednesday afternoons. And usually we just watched TV together. But we were just
quality time.
It was just us together.
Yeah.
And she would call and say, "Oh, I know it's date night, but this couldn't wait. With this Facebook post that I don't know how to do couldn't wait."
Oh my God.
Okay, manipulativeness. Using deceit or cunning to influence others. They may use guilt, compliments, or even fear tactics to manipulate you.
Ooh, that's a big one.
They might gaslight you into thinking you may be the problem here, not them. Never them.
Never.
Never. They might use the good old, "but remember when I did this for you?" They may also use generosity to create the impression that they are the best boss ever. They gave you a huge bonus, but then they do something mean and you feel stuck between, well, they gave me that generous bonus, so I can't be mad at, or actually use it against you with, "I just gave you $1,000 and this is the thanks I get."
Yeah, I've seen narcissistic family members pull this card over and over. They'll like berate you, scream mean things at you, and then they'll insist that it never happened. Or they'll just move on so quickly that you're like, what the fuck? I thought we were just fighting about this. And then they'll buy you something to make up for it. And it's like, it doesn't count as a nice thing if you're using it as ammunition to fuck with me later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fragility/vulnerability. Although not overt, feeling easily slighted or insecure, leading to defensive or aggressive reactions. This one is the closest to home for me only because my bad boss was always in therapy. She used this as an excuse for her horrid behavior. This is the mask that many narcissists wear. The ultra-sensitive, "you are the mean one, not me, I'm sensitive" bullshit. So you may be at work walking on eggshells so as not to provoke the beast. Your boss may overreact to small criticism or find criticisms in things that are totally fine, like you're criticizing them. This goes back to the need to not make decisions. So if something goes wrong, they have someone else to blame. The fragility or hypersensitivity can lead to a very lonely life, since they also do not like to forgive, and the relationships that are lost are always the fault of the other party. Always. You have no idea how many people I watched who could have been friends with her, that she would find one little thing and then all of a sudden she would deem them scary. And I knew once I was deemed scary that it was not long for me.
I don't know. I have a lot of questions about that. We need to get like a real therapist on here so we can get some answers about some of this shit, because I'm like, it doesn't compute to me how anybody can rationalize that kind of shit.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing rational about the person that I worked for.
Yeah. This also makes me think about people that just hold eternal grudges, like they'll just never get over shit. Okay, next is self-absorption. Excessive focus on one's own thoughts, desires, and problems. So remember, your narcissistic boss is the single most important and influential person in the whole world. It's always a one-sided relationship with a narcissist. They're going to turn everything into being about them. Oh, your mom died? Well, my mom died first and harder. What? That's so messed up. If they ever ask you how you are, it's only so they can tell you more about how they are.
Ooh, hostility. Hostility, reacting to criticism or perceived slights with anger or revenge. Now, note perceived slights, because a lot of times it's not critical, it's not a slight, but they take it that way. And that's the highly sensitive part of it. When you are the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, it's hard to not get angry when that title is questioned, right?
Yeah.
This can be really hard to deal with in a workplace because you never know when they may explode. They can be very defensive and lash out in either anger or feigned sadness at their unfair treatment. If you feel like you're walking on eggshells, afraid to tell the boss about a problem for fear of backlash, that is not a functional environment.
Yeah.
This trait is connected to the next one. Insecurity.
Yeah. That phrase, walking on eggshells, to me that's a big one.
When she used that on me.
Oh, she said she felt like she was walking on eggshells?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll do that shit. They'll turn it around. Any toxic trait that they might perceive, they'll turn it around and make it that you're the problem.
Yep, I was definitely the problem in her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. So their insecurity. This is really what it all comes down to. The actual truth of the narcissist is that they know they are not all of the things they profess to be. This insecurity manifests itself in defensive and compensatory behaviors. This is why they'll often speak highly of themselves in order to get praise. They love being complimented. They bask in that glory, right? But deep down, they are envious of people who have actual meaningful relationships.
Absolutely.
This deep and painful insecurity, it's like a black hole. It sucks in everyone else's energy, and it can never be appeased. That black hole is permanently hungry, because when you find your self-worth in external validation, you're always going to need more.
Yep.
It's not going to stick. So this makes me think of some of my actor friends. That you don't know any of these people, Livy, so I'm not talking about any of our actor friends. This was back when I was doing community theater in particular. A lot of my actor friends would totally base their self-worth based on what roles they were cast for. And this was an insecurity. It became toxic with them and competitive. If I went up for a role that one of my toxic actor friends was also going up for, it became a battle, and they took it like personally if I got cast over them. When in reality, that's not how auditions work. It's not always about who's quote-unquote best, like who has the most talent. It might just be that you're too tall.
Right.
And the guy is shorter than you, so we had to go with someone shorter than the guy because it's going to not look right to the director. It's totally subjective, so you can't base your self-worth on casting, Definitely an example of external validation.
100%. A couple of keynotes here after going over all of these traits, and some of you might be going, oh my God, I think my so-and-so, my mom, my friend, my brother is a narcissist. And some of you might even be like, oh my God, am I a narcissist?
Me?
Yeah. Well, let me stop you there. If you wonder if it's you, it's clearly not. If you're concerned enough to wonder, then the answer is clear.
Okay, good. Some of my friends might disagree with you about me.
Well, one of my former bosses would probably disagree about me. There are many situations in which you cannot just walk away from narcissistic abuse. Not everyone can leave a narcissistic parent or sibling or other family members. But here we are talking about bosses, and no job is worth being abused.
Period.
But we know it's hard to leave any situation like this. And really, the very first step is realizing it's not you, it's them.
Yeah.
One method that has helped a lot of people, a friend of mine recommended it to me when I was trying to break free, and it's called the gray rock method.
Yeah.
Which is kind of exactly how it sounds, unreactive and solid. A narcissist wants you to look like the bad guy. They want you to be scary. They want you to lose your cool.
That's how they get their food.
Yep, the best case for them is for you to lose it. Don't. Recognize the situation. They are trying to get you to react. They just want you to yell or cry or beg. Don't. Also, don't tell them you're using this or any other method on them. They will use that against you.
Oh, yeah.
Stay calm and don't engage. Instead of giving in to their desire to see you go all apeshit on them, just acknowledge what they've said or done calmly and matter-of-factly. Oftentimes, a nod or a will do. Don't get defensive, and this one can be so hard, and it messed me up a lot of times. Non-reactive, no inflection in your voice, and avoid eye contact. Redirect from the subject, or even better, end the conversation. Appear distracted. Look at your phone. Keep it boring and drama-free. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
In most cases, when you're dealing with a narcissist, no reaction is the best reaction. And I'm going to say it again. It's really, really hard. It's not easy to not react, especially when they have totally abused you.
Yeah. And you want to stand up for yourself,
definitely,
right?
Yes.
And that's the instinct with a person who has self-confidence. But you can't, because they will flip it around. They will make it about them, and it's just going to go nowhere. It will be non-productive. So in this particular situation, this is not the time to get defensive.
And that's what got me to be the most terrifying person in the world. I am the most terrifying person in the world because I defended myself.
Shocking.
Yep.
Absurd. How dare you?
So it definitely takes a lot of self-control to not react, but don't. If you disengage, they will often go try it with someone else because you've bored them. They're done with you.
Well, I wanted to tell you a story about a time that I used this gray rock method at my job. This was with a coworker who may or may not really be a narcissist. I don't know, but they were coming at me hot, okay? They were coming at me with this really confrontational energy, and I was like, whoa, we're not going to engage. We're not going to scream at each other. This is not going to turn into a screaming match. So I was sitting and having lunch in my classroom with a couple of my friends. There was no kids in there. She came into my classroom and started screaming at me and berating me about something that had gone wrong with some event she was planning. And this involved another teacher, the band teacher. And she was really mad at him and mad at me at the same time. And I just kind of gray rocked her. I just sort of like let her run out of steam yelling. I just kind of sat there and nodded and I was like, okay, I see. All right. And then when it seemed like she was done, I just said, okay, it sounds like there might have been some miscommunication between you and this other teacher. I'm going to finish my lunch and then I'm going to take care of it for you. And I'll come circle back once that's handled. Thank you for letting me know. And I went back to eating my orange and just started ignoring her. And instead of continuing to scream at me, she left. And then I went and handled the problem. I went and found that other teacher she was screaming about. And he came up to me and was like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with her? But yeah, so my friend that I was eating lunch with just turned to me after that and she was like, are you a fucking Jedi? What was that?
Yeah, I stronger than me.
And then I realized like, oh, wait. That shit works.
Yeah.
Because once they realize you're not going to give in to what they're looking for, that you're not going to feed their insecurity black hole, they'll move on.
You know, I would say I wish I had started doing that sooner, but all roads led to not having to deal with her anymore. So,
Yeah.
And
you don't always have control, especially when it's a coworker and not a boss.
Yeah.
Like you could leave the job, but it may not be worth it if it's just one coworker.
person,
If the rest, So you don't have control over that coworker working there. Sometimes you just have to be able to exist.
Yeah.
And keep working through it.
Well, it took me almost 20 years to put a name to what I was dealing with in my job, but I didn't have quote unquote coworkers. Mine was not a corporate workplace. It was not a business. I worked as a personal assistant to a woman who ran her business out of her home. It was not easy breaking free. One of the things that I did that worked so well, and I cannot recommend it enough, was sleep meditation, because I would stay up. I would stay up at night and just run scenarios through my head. I would be on the back of the motorcycle in the beautiful back roads of with my husband, running scenarios through my head of conversations, what I should have said, what I will say if she does this. And when I bought a little headband with speakers in it, and I downloaded some sleep meditation, and I pay for an app now, but it was literally the best thing. Sleep hypnosis is so awesome. And yes, some thoughts will get through, but if you can fall asleep and stay asleep, it gives you more strength for gray rocking.
Yeah. And that's something that's going to come up in next week's episode as well, when we talk about the necessity of self-care. And I also am a big fan of meditation. I'm glad to hear that it was helpful to you too.
Another thing to do if you are stuck in a job with a toxic boss is give positive feedback. If you can think of something positive to say, please say it. I'm talking about to them. Validate their feelings. Praise them for successes, no matter the size. Don't expect the same in return. If you're asked to critique something, do so with caution. The best thing to do with this particular person was find something, if she asks you to critique an email that she's going to send. Find something extremely minor, like, oh, put a comma here, whatever, very minor. Find something that they can improve. Tell them what is good about what they're doing.
And that's like basically a survival strategy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I hate to say it, but like it really is a defense mechanism for you,
yes.
You know, to just get through the day. And if you're working on building up some savings or whatever to move on or find another strategy, this can just kind of keep them off your back, take the heat off of you a little bit.
Well, it's pretty strategic, and I was pretty blown away by the advice.
The next thing is take care of you. Make sure that your off time is spent as stress-free as possible. So this also goes in with creating some boundaries, right? Whatever you're doing in your off time, try to make sure you have that work-life balance and that you're not constantly thinking about work. Make sure that you have set boundaries for yourself and make them very clear. I stop answering emails at 4 p.m. If your boundaries get crossed or violated, document that.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you have said, I made it clear to you that I am on vacation this week, and I will not be responding to any work communication until I return to the office on so-and-so day. If you then have screenshots of your boss texting you while they know that you're on vacation because they approved it, then later that can be brought to HR. And also keep your eyes and ears open to better possibilities.
Always.
Because eventually you will need to break free. You are not going to be able to fix a narcissist.
Nope.
This is a big one that I didn't write down, but the idea of like, oh, but they really care about me and they're so kind to me sometimes and we can really work on this. No, there is no fixing them. They don't have empathy. They're built different. When you are a person with empathy, sometimes you want to have empathy for them, right?
Yes.
I know how
Guilty.
she feels and it makes you feel that guilt. But like, they're just going to flip it around and use that as their food. That's their food source, is your empathy, because they don't have it on their own.
Right. And remember, it's not you. You may be made to feel crazy, or if you get to a breaking point, depending on how closely you work together and how often they explode. You may also raise your voice or storm out of a room. They will use it against you every single time. But it may happen. You are human. Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah. You're going to make mistakes. It's impossible to gray rock every time, you know. Sometimes they just push those buttons and they know what your buttons are. And they will push them because they're just looking to get a rise out of you. Oh,
girl, I got to tell you this. When she and I had multiple conversations in the last 6 years in the last 4 years about her behavior. And every time she would act like it was so deeply felt and heard by her. And I came to her house once when I was pet sitting, and she had a big note taped to her computer monitor, and it said, "Ivy is my priority." And here I'm walking around all light and free thinking I got it all off my chest and it's going to be fine, you know, because I'm normal. Well, sort of.
Nobody's normal.
Right. But I'm not like her, I guess. And man, after that, the explosions multiplied by the thousands.
Yeah, because she knew what pissed you off then, so she could just do it more.
Yep. Yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. If you ever see a note on your boss's desk that says you are the priority, run.
Run if you get 5 or more of these checkboxes checked.
Yeah, just run. Another thing is save everything. Save your emails. Take notes. Keep a journal. Documenting the bad behavior of a boss may wind up being important in the long run. And you may need to show proof at some point. So save those emails. I have folder upon folder of emails. Narcissists love to rewrite history to suit their current needs. It's called gaslighting. They also love a good scapegoat, and you could be it. So keep clear notes. Send an email to your boss or team just to stay on the same page. Paper trails with narcissists can prove very helpful.
That's right.
Stay professional and as upbeat as you can. Don't give the bad boss ammunition against you. Do your job and do it well.
Lastly, before we move on, we're going to give you some resources here. If you think you might be working for a narcissistic boss, have a narcissistic family member, or probably worst of all, be in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, please check out a few of these helpful YouTube channels. There's one called Dr. Ramani, that is Ramani. She's a licensed clinical psychologist, and she has a lot of videos about narcissistic bosses in particular.
She helped me so much during...
She is fantastic.
Yes, she is great.
Brilliant
I watched a
lady.
lot of her videos.
Yeah. The next one is Barbara Heffernan. She's a psychotherapist and a life coach. She has a lot of videos about narcissistic parents and family members. And the last one is Matthew Hussey. He's British and he's very hot, which doesn't hurt.
And his last name is Hussey. I love
Hussey, right? He is a cutie patootie.
Oh, I'll look him up.
But you should look him up. His videos are mostly about romantic relationships, and he has a lot of content about narcissistic abuse in personal and romantic relationships. So please check those things out if you want more information. Moving on to Two Truths and a Lie. This is a new segment for us that I am excited about. Two Truths and a Lie. So what I'm going to do here is I have 3 quotes from real people, probably narcissists, although we're not here to diagnose anybody. And I want you to tell me which one is a lie. So 2 of these are the correct quote and the correct person that said them. One of them is incorrect. You ready?
Yep.
See if you can guess. Okay, first one. The world is full of people who have great ideas and are just waiting for a little push. I'll give them the push and take the credit. Rupert Murdoch. Okay? Second one. I'm sorry, I'm not a nice guy. I'm an asshole.
Is that my husband?
Steve Jobs.
Oh.
Was that my husband? That one says it's Steve Jobs. Okay. And the third one. We don't pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes. Bernie Madoff.
Oh, they all sound true.
Now, I'll give you a hint. These are all real quotes, but one of them was attributed to the wrong person.
I'm going to go with the Steve Jobs.
That was a great guess. Actually, he fucking said that. The fake one was the third one. We don't pay taxes, only the little people pay taxes. Totally sounds like Bernie Madoff would have said that shit. But it was actually Leona Helmsley of Helmsley Hotels.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know who she was, but I figured you would.
I do. I listened to, I listened to a podcast that's called Even the Rich. And I think it was that one. They talk about how rich people do normal things too.
Well, I didn't know who she was. So if you don't know who she is, listeners, she was a hotel real estate mogul. She was super rich and she was known as the Queen of Mean.
Yeah.
And then she was in a famous tax evasion scandal during which she was quoted as saying, we don't pay taxes, only the little people pay taxes. She went to prison for 16 years. Yep. After her death in 2007. Did you know this? After her death in 2007, it was revealed that she had left a substantial portion of her estate to her dog, whose name was Trouble.
Oh.
All right, moving on to vocabulary word of the week.
Oh, I'm excited.
Are you ready for this?
What is it?
It is gaslighting. So this is one that can be sometimes misused. So I thought it would be important to define this. Okay. So gaslighting is the psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, the perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence, and self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator. Wouldn't a narcissist love that?
Yep.
Your dependency on them. So this is an example of like when someone says, calm down, you're overreacting, you're being too sensitive, or especially, that never happened, when you fucking know that it happened. So I couldn't find a great example, like a quote of using this in a sentence, so I just wrote my own.
Excellent.
Here's our example sentence. You can't gaslight me anymore, Brad. I was there when you called me a slut in front of my grandmother. Fucking Brad. What a dick.
Brad.
He's the hairy cockbag.
Sounds like it.
All right. Well, that is about all I've got for this week. Join us next time when we talk about breaking free of the fear, escaping that toxic fear cycle that is sometimes beaten into you from day one. So I'll be sharing some personal experience with that. So
okay.
Exciting stuff coming up. Thank you so much for making a podcast with me, Ivy.
Oh my God.
This was really fun.
So much fun, Katie. I love it.
Very informative, and hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Again, we're not doctors or whatever, but we can certainly give you some information that might lead to some revelations.
Yeah, and
about your work.
Personally, I think I can speak for Katie too. I really would love to hear other people's toxic boss stories, long, short stories, anything that you want to share, any questions you want to ask us. We are here and we are looking forward to getting these episodes out there and hearing what all of you have to say, the good and the bad. We are ready for some honest critique and hopefully some listeners. Lots and lots of listeners.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating, leave us a comment, like us, subscribe, hit all the buttons. If you want to submit a listener story or just send us a note or ask us a question, give us a suggestion, whatever, please email us, stories@badbossdetox.com. Also, feel free to like us on Facebook. Is that what they still say?
Yep.
Is that what the kids are saying?
Like us on
Like
Facebook.
us on Facebook. Our page is Bad Boss Detox. And we're also on Instagram at Bad Boss Detox Pod. Is that all the stuff I'm supposed to say?
Share. Tell your friends.
Share. Send this episode to your friend at work and say, do you think our boss is a narcissist?
Make sure you trust that friend.
Yeah. Don't send this to your boss. That would be bad.
Or do if you want to get fired like me and have the best life ever. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.